My name is Kazakiel Ben Yisrael. Welcome to Unfolding Scriptures. Tonight's topic is In the Beginning, or Bereshit. Now I'm about to introduce my guest. To my right is...
I'm Elder Shananiah Ben Israel. Shalom.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom.
Shalom. I'm Elder Aharon Ben Israel.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom.
Obayahu, Bain Israel. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, Aki. So now, as I said in my opening statements, that we're going to talk a little bit about what's called the book of Genesis. We're going to start at Genesis 1:1, which in Hebrew, Genesis, the name is Bereshit, which means the head or the beginning. So we're going to let one of the elders, we're going to let Obayahu, if he wants to, whoever wants to start, we'll let him start.
Well, okay. The book of Genesis is the first book in the Bible. And the book of Genesis is important because it is the first. In English, we say Genesis. And Genesis is a English word that its root is in the Greek, and in the Greek it also means beginning. But in the Hebrew, we would not say Genesis. We would say Bereshit, just like Kazakiel just mentioned. Bereshit. Now, Bereshit is a Hebraic word, and Bereshit, the word bear, which is the part bear, or the prefix bear of that word, means head. So basically, when you say Bereshit, you are saying in the head of the beginning. Now, at this point, it's important for us to understand something, and that is that the Hebraic culture is very important. Why? Because the original Old Testament, as we call it, in the Hebrew you will say Tanakh, was written in Hebrew. So Hebraic thought is very, very important. But just to give you a short stint of Hebraic culture, in the Hebraic culture, there is a beginning of things and there is an ending of things. Just like in English we have, in our society here, we have a beginning of things and we have an ending of things. But in the Hebraic culture, in the beginning, we can break down the beginning, or the concept of the beginning is broken down into three parts. The first part being the head of the beginning, or the beginning of the beginning. The second part being what we call the middle of the beginning. And the third part will be called what we call the ending of the beginning. So in Hebraic thought, a beginning is not just a beginning as we know it in English, but it consists of three parts: the head, the middle, and the end. Same as is it with what we call an ending. The ending of a situation or a circumstance has a beginning. So there's a beginning of an end. There's also a middle of the end, and there's what? There's an ending of an end. So I just wanted to use that word, Bereshit, what we call Genesis, to explain a little bit of Hebrew culture. So that's something to think about, and in future shows we will show the importance of that Hebraic thought and how important it is for you to understand that, because it helps us understand certain things, especially issues and prophetic things that come to play in the New Testament as well. Elder?
No, I was just going to say, to piggyback on what you were saying, Hebrew has a way of thinking just like English has a way of thinking. And when they begin to, what we call, transliterate this book into English ideas, they had to find or tried to find words to complement the Hebrew. And when they translated it from the Hebrew to the Greek to the English, so now here we are, or really Latin came in between, so we're really reading something that's 4 times or 3 times removed from the original idea. And I always say that if you want to understand something, you must go to the origin of it. Now, people would disagree with you about that because they got this idea that what we say in one language can be transposed to another. And as we found out, that's not necessarily true. That's why we're trying to give you an idea of what we're really up against when we're reading this in English. And we tend to bring forth things that people disagree with only because they don't understand the Hebrew concept.
Exactly.
So we're going to get started with this. Genesis 1:1. It says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And then it says, and the spirit of Elohim was hovering over the face of the waters. Stop. I don't know if you've ever really thought about what I just read there. But it said, and the spirit of Elohim hovered over the face of the waters. So that meant that water was here.
Right.
And water covered everything.
Absolutely. All ground.
And it started me to thinking one day. But let's continue to read. 3rd verse. It says, then Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light. Stop. Notice he said, let there be light.
Yeah, that's right.
Huh? But there was no sun and moon and stars at this particular time.
Very good.
So where do you think the light came from? Something for you to ponder.
Right. Excellent question.
You know, something for you to work upon your thinking faculties. Then it says, and Elohim saw the light that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Now, I'm going to go back because I've been saying a word that some of you might not be familiar with. The word Elohim.
Okay. Excellent.
Elohim was the word which the writers transposed to the word God.
That's right. Because Elohim was the original word there.
Right. Elohim was the original Hebrew word.
It was.
Now, we know that the word God is a title.
Okay.
It's not a name. It's a title like Mr. or Mrs. or Sir. most people tend to think that when they hear this word, they hear the word God, they are not quite understanding that this is a title and not a name. Because as we go along, we're going to show you that the Father has a name, just in case you don't know that, and it's not God.
That's right.
Again, the word Elohim, the concept is beyond the word God. If I can be so bold as to say that.
Okay.
Because the connotation is such that if you don't really look into the Hebrew, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying.
Exactly.
And that's the part where we don't do what 2 Timothy tells us to do. We don't study to show thyself approved. We rely on somebody to stand up in front of you and tell you what you're supposed to think.
That's right.
And you don't understand that can nobody save you but you.
Very good.
Now, I'm going to say that again. No one can save you but you. Because you have to answer for yourself at Judgment Day.
Very good.
Again, to further break down this first couple of verses here, as Elder did so very well in breaking down that the word God here and that Elohim was in the initial text. You notice here it says, and darkness was on the face of the deep. So darkness was present.
Correct.
Now what wasn't present was light.
That's correct.
So light came into existence after darkness. So darkness was here first and light was here second. And it says, and the spirit of Yah, or Elohim, was hovering over the face of the waters. Then in 3 it says, then Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light.
Okay.
And Elohim saw the light, that it was good, and divided the light from the darkness.
Okay.
And remember, darkness first, light second.
Very good.
In verse 5 it says, so Elohim called the light day, and darkness he called night. Now, so let's look at the word day, because day is important there. Now, when you think of day, most of the time when people think of day, they think about when the sun is out, when it's bright out. Well, the Father here attaches the word day to light.
Okay.
Okay? But, you see, he attaches night to darkness. But you notice right here, right after it says that the Father connects what? Light to day. It says, so the evening and, conjunction, the morning were the first what? Day. So you see day here again. But here, day does not refer to what? Light, the way we just connected it here, up in verse 3. Now day takes on a completely different meaning. So, therefore, boom. Therefore, the first day that we see here is attached to what? What we call the morning, because the morning comes last.
Right.
See? So here, light attaches itself to morning, and darkness attaches itself to what? Evening.
Right.
So evening always comes first because darkness was here first.
Right.
Morning always comes second because what? Light came here second.
Right.
All right, now, breaking down this first day here again in 5, God, it says, Elohim called the light day. That day there consists of 12 hours. How do we know that? Okay, let's go to John, the 11th chapter and verse 9.
So day is twofold.
Day is twofold. Actually, day is threefold, but we'll take one at a time.
Okay, very good. I'm glad you're going there.
So we go to John, we go to 11th chapter, and we'll look at verse 9. It says, Yehoshua answered, are there not what? 12 hours in the day?
That's right.
Huh? 12 hours in the day. 12 hours in the day. That is reflective of the first day here in verse 5.
Right.
Now, so the evening and the morning were the first day. Now day takes on what? A meaning of 24 hours. Because day, in terms of the first day we just broke down, is 12 hours, and night or evening is an additional what? 12 hours. So therefore, we do simple what? Do the math. 12 plus 12 is what? 24. So that's also considered a day. So that's your second day. Now, let's go to the third of the threefold part of what a day is. Let's go to 2 Peter 3 and 8. 2 Peter 3 and 8. Okay, it says, and we know the writer here is Peter. He says, but beloved, do not forget this one thing, that with Elohim, one day is as a what? 1,000 years. Oh, so we have kind of like a third definition of what a day is. 1, 12 hours. 2, 24 hours. 3, 1,000 years. Now we can go back over to Genesis 1:1 again, or 1 again, the first chapter. So we see that on the first day there ever was, the thing that was created was what? Night and day. And elder put before everybody a very interesting question. What was that light? Because we're going to find out something very interesting right around the fourth day. So I'll let someone take the second day here.
Okay. We in Genesis 6. It says, and Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So, once you understand the firmament and the division, as I was taught, when you come out in the morning and you experience dew, a lot of people don't know dew comes from the ground.
Correct.
Okay? And when this division of the waters took place, Yah took, okay, all right, when the water was here and he made a division, let me get it in there, he made a division, there was water that was still underground or on the ground, and there was water that was taken up.
Correct.
Okay?
Taking up, exactly.
So that's what this is breaking down right here in the second day. And 7, and Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so.
So when we go up in the airplane, what you're saying is there's just as much water up there in the atmosphere as
Right.
there is down here.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's right.
that's the way I was taught. Because it always amazed me that the ground was wet when you come out in the morning and it hadn't rained.
Well, think about it like this. It says, the firmament of heaven divided the waters from the water.
Right.
You notice here that there is no mention ever again of the waters above the firmament of heaven.
That's right.
But you know that what they're calling sky or space
Right.
is actually the firmament of heaven.
That's right.
And what do they have flying around in the firmament of heaven? But ice balls,
Right.
That's right.
comets.
Right.
So that means that in theory or in actuality, from what this is saying, even if you went all the way through space, what you would hit would be water.
Right. That's true.
That's right. That's right.
Because the firmament of heaven,
Right.
huh?
That is heaven.
Huh?
That is heaven.
That is heaven,
Right. Or sky.
divides the waters from the waters.
Some people would call it sky.
Right.
Right.
So when the flood came, what did it say? The Father opened up the windows of heaven
Right.
and waters came down. So you have to think about, where did that water come from? Because it said the fountains of the deep were also broken up.
Right.
What Kazakiel talked
Just
about,
exactly
the
right.
dew coming up out of the ground.
Right. It met.
Right. And the waters that flowed from the windows of heaven.
That's right.
So you had a great flood. So now, it should get you to thinking about, there's a lot here that you might not have been privy to thinking about.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
What you just talking about, Elder, is Genesis 7.
Yeah.
Genesis 7:11. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but since you mentioned it, I want to read
Read
it.
it, please.
Go ahead.
Give
Please.
you an audience.
Do that.
Idea what we're talking about here.
Right.
This is Genesis
Right.
7,
Some people
verse
think it
11.
just came from up top.
Right.
It says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened up.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
right. That means it was
And the
like
rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
That's right.
Correct.
So that's where that water came from.
That's right.
Yeah.
That great water in the sky.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's so beautiful when you think about it.
It
And you
is.
wonder, and you see, and once you realize, understand what's really going on, that you don't have to really be so amazed how fast it got flooded.
Right.
Because when you look at it, water is coming from above down,
Right.
and water under the earth is coming up. So what you have is you have water meeting water.
Right.
So you have water coming from two
That's right.
fountains,
Yeah.
just like Ezekiel just said.
Right.
Right.
You have the ground water from the ground, and you have the water from what? From the sky, from above,
That's
in the
right.
atmosphere. So that's why it got flooded so fast
Right.
with no problem.
Okay. Now we're at 8, verse 8. It says, Elohim called the firmament heaven. It's like Elder was breaking down. And that was the division.
Right.
So,
Right.
if you didn't understand what firmament mean, that's the division, heaven.
Right.
Sky.
Okay, right, what they call the sky.
Okay.
Before you go any further, the word heavens in Hebrew is pronounced Shemayim.
Okay.
which has the connotation of mayim, which is water. So it all fits together. See, that's why we keep trying to express to you that a Hebrew thought is different.
That's right.
Quite different.
That's the part that most people don't understand.
They don't get
they
this.
Keep coming up with this English thing and reading this book and teaching this book in the English part, but they ain't going to the Hebrew, because and if you don't do that, you're not going to understand it properly. We keep telling them that, but they don't want to listen.
No, they
Don't
don't.
want to listen. You think you know it. You are at a terrible disadvantage speaking English.
Yeah.
I'm telling you all the time.
And most importantly is it's the concept of the Hebrew.
Right.
It's the ideal of the way you thinking that puts you in harm's way. Okay, when you think with a Western mindset, basically a European mindset, no matter what color you are, when you take on the cultural ideologies of this particular hemisphere or this part of the world, what you begin to do is you begin to feel superior, or you begin to think that what you believe and what you're a part of supersedes everything you come in contact with.
Yeah.
It's just like Hebrew is written in red from right to left.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, English
I wanted to go there.
is written in red from left to right.
Very good.
But you'll think that the Hebrew is backwards.
Right.
But the Hebrew came before the English, so which one is backwards?
Correct.
English.
But you know, but to kind of get off the subject here a little bit. But even when you look at other things, I think the real backwards part is just American culture, not so much English, because when you look at, for example, when you go to England, if you look at a car,
Right.
okay, the steering wheel is on the right side. Here in American culture, it's on the left side.
Right.
Or you go to, say, you go to a horse race. You go to a horse race, the race flows from the right side and going around to the left side, from the left side to the right side.
Right.
Here we start, here over in America, we start here from this side and we go around this way.
Right.
You know, on your racetracks. So even within the English culture, so to speak, looking at American culture, which we speak English, and to them we speak terrible English.
We speak American.
So a lot of what we do here is backwards. You know, it's like you're talking about the reading and the writing, same thing.
But look at verse 5 again, just the latter part of it. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
Right.
That's a real big one.
That's right. That's right.
Our morning
Right.
starts at midnight, but actually
Right.
we go to work around 5 and 6 in the morning, or when the sun comes up.
Right.
But in the Hebrew culture, the day starts around 6 in the evening,
When
the
the sun goes down.
Right.
So in the summertime, it would be around 8.
Exactly.
And that's what
Even
this
though-
is talking about.
Very good.
That's where our people got their definition of day, or how they divided days. And this superseded, this is the beginning. This supersedes it all.
Everything. Right.
So what you need to ask yourself is, well, why is everything backwards? Because this is basically backward.
Right.
Right.
American.
Okay, and you're part of a backward culture,
Right.
and think that
That's the bottom line.
you're on top of things,
Right.
never being exposed
Right.
to the true definition
Exactly.
of whatever it is
Exactly.
that you are a part of.
Exactly.
I mean, something as simple as the day. You would never think
Right.
something that simple could be that far off. Just like we talk about, just say, the times of the year, like we celebrate Pesach or Passover in in Hebrew culture, that's the beginning of the year.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
my
which is
man.
what we call spring.
Right.
But in American culture and parts of Europe, they celebrate the new year in the mid of January, in the mid of winter.
Right.
See, all these different things,
Right.
No life at all.
right, but all these different things
Oh, yeah.
are part of a culture, but what superseded this particular culture, because this is a young culture,
Right.
but really it's old by spiritual definition.
Okay.
But I ain't gonna go there. I'm just gonna talk about what we're dealing with in the physical.
Okay.
It's like okay, if this is old and this is the beginning, and you've read this basically from your childhood, we never thought before we came into the knowledge. I never thought personally the difference, and never saw the difference in this. I never questioned it.
Right.
Of course not.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm talking about, that ideology and how this country, once you start dealing with America and its customs and traditions, you think that nothing is more important than what you're dealing with, which America and all these traditions is one big lie, one big dressed up lie.
Absolutely. And that's something that Obiahu just addressed, and I just like to echo on that. Simply to say that basically what you just broke down and where you just said that is what we call the true cycle of a day. The true cycle of a day is first there's evening and then there is morning.
Right.
Evening is what? 12 hours, and morning is 12 hours. The day changes when the sun goes down. So when the sun goes down, darkness comes first. That is a brand new day. That is the beginning of a new day. So
Correct.
every new day starts off with what? Darkness, called evening, and it ends with light, which is called morning. So when the sun comes up, okay, as we might say tomorrow, if it doesn't matter whether it's 9 o'clock in the morning, sun is out, it's bright out. If it's 9 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. If it's 12 o'clock, it's 12 o'clock in the morning. If it's 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, not afternoon.
Right.
2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But when we begin to say 2 o'clock in the morning, we think it's dark out. No, it's what? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The sun is high. The sun is out.
Right.
So
It's
that's
2
this
o'clock
culture.
in the morning.
Right.
Well,
in
right.
American culture, it's dark out. You see. So in this culture here, we change what? We change the day at what? Midnight.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you go from one day to another day, there always has to be a what? A physical change.
Yeah.
Here we see it, evident right here, because we go from what? Light to dark. When we go from light to dark, we then what? Go from one day to another day. There's a physical change, no problem. In our culture here, when we go from one day to another day, there is no difference. There is no physical change, because if you look outside and it's 10 o'clock at night, my question is, if you look outside 3 hours later, can you tell the difference between, say, that 1 o'clock and that 10 o'clock when you looked outside 3 hours earlier? Can you see the difference in darkness? Can you tell the difference in darkness? You can't, can you? So there is no what? There is no change at all.
Right.
So how do you go from one day to another day?
They don't understand.
No.
But,
That's not proper. That's not correct. That's
but
not right.
there, as a cycle, as it runs, the evening, when the evening comes in, or let's say the whole day is broken up into 4 cycles. Arab is the cycle that when the sun is going down and it begins to get what we call dark.
Arab.
Right, Arab.
Arab.
Then you have what is called Lila, which is the absence of sunlight, which Elder, he explained, was dark.
Can I hear someone else?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Arab that Elder's talking about is a part of a day, but it is the part of the day when the sun is going down,
Wow.
commonly known to most people as twilight.
Light. Yep.
So when it's dark, but yet it's light outside, that's twilight. That's called Arab.
Right.
That's called Arab. So when it's dark outside, and at the same time it's light outside, twilight, meaning two lights, that's called Arab. That is also called what we call evening. Okay? And then Elder touched on another evening,
Right.
a second evening, and that's called what, Elder? Lila.
Lila.
Lila. And Lila is total darkness, the presence of no light.
Right.
That's Hebraic culture for you.
Right.
And we're giving that to you so you'll understand.
Understand.
But see, most importantly, the scripture is Hebraic culture.
It is.
Correct.
It is.
It is.
The whole book is
Yeah.
Hebraic culture.
And that's what it is.
And we tend to be a part of these different churches and temples and this, that, and the other, and we start dealing with the English, and we start dealing with that ideology and
Right.
the spirit that English carries,
Right.
and you try to make this Hebrew thought
Yeah.
fit your westernized thinking,
Yeah.
Your foundation
where you
is
can't
off.
do it. You have to make your westernized thinking conform to the Hebrew,
Right.
Very good.
because this superseded the English.
Right.
At the time when this book was in scroll form, there was no English language.
Right. Didn't
No,
exist.
didn't exist.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So, to show you just how deceptive that spirit and that ideology of English is, it'll have you actually thinking, because the people who helped originate this country, that really came from England, okay, and English being, so if you want to say, the mother tongue of the peoples,
Okay.
okay, that when you come here, this is the common language of this country, okay, so once you start to speak the English, you begin to take on the spirit that this particular language carries.
Right.
At the same time, you equate this country's government or administration, how they go across the world and terrorize different parts of the world and do whatever it is that they want to do, and they think that they are the elite, and you may look at them as a superpower, but at the same time, none of this has been exposed to you. For some, this is the first time you've ever heard this in your life, and they've been in front of your face all the time.
That's right.
Correct.
Right.
But something that you may take it for granted, do you see how much is off? So just think about how much more the book you've been taught off, or in the wrong manner, or just been deceived because the people that taught you or the person that taught you didn't know what they was talking about.
Right.
Something this simple.
Very simple.
But see, that's why I say we're used to people standing up in front of us, giving you their opinion,
Right.
and not, I believe that one who ministers to anybody has to be a teacher.
Mhm.
And when I say he has to be a teacher, that don't mean that he necessarily has to have a good voice for oration, but he has to know the material
Subject matter.
that he's teaching you.
Subject matter, absolutely. Elder. That's
Because if he doesn't know the material that he's teaching you, he's giving you his opinion
that's
Right.
Exactly.
and not what the subject matter is about.
That's right.
And that's what has been happening to our people
Yeah.
all these years.
Absolutely, Elder, that's true.
When we say certain things, it's the Father say, and the evening and the morning were the first day.
Okay. That's right, Elder.
I'm going to use that because here's the first example.
Right.
That's right. That's what he said.
Right.
Yeah.
The Father said this.
Right.
We didn't write this.
That's right, Elder.
Right.
So that means that what he says supersedes anything man can bring to
That's
you.
right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So if the Father says the evening and the morning is the first day,
Yes.
that's what it is.
So be it.
I'm into that one.
When they begin
Huh?
to teach,
I'm into that one.
Right.
if they don't know Hebrew culture, and when they begin to teach out of this book, and you don't know Hebrew culture, your whole foundation is off.
Correct.
You beginning in error.
That's right.
You need some Hebrew understanding.
Absolutely, you do.
Let's look at verse 7. It says, and Elohim made the sky and divided the waters which were under the sky from the waters which were above the sky. And it was so. So we have water on earth and the great water in the sky.
Water underneath the earth. Because
Okay.
the earth has not been created
Right,
yet.
right, okay. So we have two waters, the small water and the greater water. So what that means is the greater water would be the bottom of the lowest heaven. So we have sky, planets, sun, moon, and stars in between two waters.
Yep.
So that's why when they're going out of space, they finding all these ice ball planets.
Yep.
They're not actually planets, but they're balls of ice.
Ice. Yep.
That's very interesting.
And, so that, and actually, honest, and to be specific, you have water really in three places. You have water above, you have water, the oceans.
Right.
Like when it's here talking about the water from the waters, like Elder brought it out. The water was here, right up here in verse 1.
Yeah.
Right.
The water there, and then you divided the water from the waters. Then the water that Kazakiel mentioned, but that's the water under the ground.
Yeah.
Right. So you have water underneath the ground, you have water on the ground, and you have water above the ground.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
All you got to do is just think about a well and how a person would dig a well
And fine water.
Right.
and you find water.
Yeah.
Right.
But they
You
don't.
know.
But you don't ever think about that.
No.
Right out of the ground.
Because your preacher didn't tell you that. So you don't understand that.
No, you don't.
Right.
And but it's been there all the time.
Right.
And see, that's what we're trying to touch on
Just
Right.
like
tonight.
when we get down further and it talks about the seventh day that he rested, you got to understand that the seventh day was here a long time ago. We didn't create the seventh day.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's right.
The Father rested on the seventh day, and he didn't rest because he was tired.
No.
He rested because there was nothing else to do.
He ceased.
Right.
Right.
He
That's
could,
right. Rest takes on the second definition of
Right.
meaning, which means cease.
He
Stop.
ceased.
That's right. There was nothing else for him to do.
Let's read on down. Let me see.
We got the second day, right?
So we at
The third day, land and sea,
10.
9.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And Elohim said, let the waters under heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear.
See that?
And it was so.
Yeah.
That's the earth.
Beautiful. Verse 10, and Elohim called the dry land earth, and gathered together of the waters called he seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, and herbs yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. That's very interesting how the Father said, let fruit bearing seed after itself. And we can go into Jewels or Cubs or Dominick's and see seedless grapes and seedless watermelon.
Yeah.
I wonder where they get that
Them
from.
right. Or you see crossbred.
Alterations.
Right. And it says
Genetic
after its
alteration.
kind.
So like a tangerine.
Right.
Where they get the tangerine from?
They call a hybrid
hybrid.
Right.
Hybrid, right.
That's a crossing.
Mm-hmm.
That's out of line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Verse 12, and the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after her kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And evening and morning were the third day. So we still congruent with that. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the sky of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let there be for signs and for season and for days and years. That's very interesting. Anybody want to touch on that?
Yeah, let's touch on that.
Now,
Go ahead.
now, I
You
just
go
wanna
ahead.
say, now we can touch on that in response to what the question that Elder brought up earlier. Although we haven't actually said what it is, we just say it just says here. It says lights. Let there be lights in the heavens, and we know there's a greater light and there's a lesser light, and one for signs and seasons, days and years, and what have you. And we, of course, we know that's talking about the sun, the moon, and the stars. We know that. All right, now we get back to the question that Elder brought up earlier, which is very important, because here we are, we're on the fourth day. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the Father is just now creating the great light and the lesser light, correct? But yet there have been light
All the
and
time.
darkness for 3 days already.
That's right.
All right? So there have been light for 3 days already, and the sun is just now being created, and the moon is just now being created on the fourth day. So the question the Elder said earlier was, what was the question, Elder?
I asked him, where do you think the light came from?
What was that light for 3 days, right?
That's right.
So what was the light for, what, 3 days?
Tell 'em.
I'm not gonna tell him. I want him to keep thinking. Because yeah, I want him to keep thinking. See, that's their problem. You want somebody to drill a hole in your head, pour the knowledge in there, and stop the hole back up. But there are things that if you want to know about this book, you must study them for yourself. You must sit down and analyze for yourself, because the answer is self-evident. It really is.
So what could be interesting, Elder, is we just have people call in who are really that interesting
Right.
enough to want to know what the answer is, call and ask. And we'll call you and tell you.
Right.
Could do that.
That's right.
You don't leave them on the string.
Yeah. The number that's appearing on the screen after the show, if you have not figured out what that light is, you can call and we will tell you.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Strike up some interest.
Yeah,
That's why your host will always put forth parables.
that's right.
Those who are interested enough will check it out.
That's right.
If you didn't know, you dig for it.
That's right.
That's right.
So let's talk about the 14th verse. Where it said, Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament. Can you just read that, Aki? Right.
Correct.
And of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, and for days and years. It didn't never say let it be for something to worship.
Right.
Okay?
Never.
But the world has taken on the worship of the sun and the moon and the different planets. But the Father specifically right here said it's to be for signs, for seasons, for days, and years. Okay. So, right here, I'm going to show.
The first thing that is interesting here is that it says that these lights is going to be for what? It says for signs and seasons.
Right.
Okay.
Signs and seasons.
Exactly.
For days. Now, right here, I have a chart of the pattern of the moon and how days are actually counted
Exactly.
from day 1 to day 29 or day 30.
Okay.
And this is the pattern of the moon. Okay?
Various stages.
I don't know, right, the various stages and the movement of the moon. The first part is called waxing, okay? And that goes all the way to the 14th day, which the 14th and the 15th day, both of those are full moons,
Okay.
okay?
That's right.
This is, on the 15th day of the second full moon, and then what happens is the darkness comes on the other side of the moon, which is called waning, which continues all the way down to the 29th or the 30th day.
That's right.
So this is the correct way to tell the days,
Of a month.
right, of the month.
Right.
Absolutely. That's the correct way.
That's the only way you can really tell the days of the month accurately. That's why the Father put this into motion. Excuse me. So, as you can see, the first part, where it says day 1, the moon is darkened on, the darkness comes, it starts on the left side,
Okay.
and it begins to move across to the right side until the 14th day. And then it does the opposite on the 15th, continuing on to the last days of the month. So that's why,
Now, it's a question. Now, that first day, what is that called? What kind of moon is that called? If it's a brand new day, it's a brand what? It's a what?
it's a new moon.
Right. And then at the 14th day and the 15th day, once that moon is complete, it's all white and whitened in here, then what kind of moon is that called? That's a full moon, is that right? Is that what they say, a full moon? Okay.
Right.
Okay. So we have, this is Yah's way, viewing audience, this is Yah's way of depicting and showing us what is the proper day of the month.
That's right.
Now, what we do in this culture is we try to do things that we really can't do. Like, for example, we have calendars. Look on the wall in your house. You have calendars on your wall in your homes, right? Okay, and every month is laid out in such a way that every month has this number of days, 30 days, 28 days, or maybe 31 days. Well, first of all, if we are true to Yah's way of doing things, you can't do that. It's impossible. In other words, you cannot create a calendar to predict how many days they're going to be in each month. You can't do it.
That's right.
Because we do not know how many days there are actually going to be in a month.
Accurately.
Because, right, as it says right here, special note, 30-day moon is optional. In the first place, there's no 31 days and no month. And a 30-day moon is optional. What that means is each month may or may not have 30 days in it. Some months are going to have, whatever, 29 days.
Right.
And some months are going to have 30 days. But you don't know which ones that are going to have 29 days, and you don't know which ones they're going to be 30 days in. So if you don't know, how can you create or make up a calendar for tomorrow?
Right.
Or next year? Or this year? Or 5 years from now? Or 10 years from now? You can't do it. But the reason why we do that in this culture is because in this culture, man is always striving, trying to gain control over time.
Right.
Control over time. Control over season. This man is constantly trying to seize control over anything and everything that he can put his hands on, including time. But you can't do it. Not according to Yah's program, you can't.
Not only that, here's something else for you to ponder. if there are 7 days in a week and there are 52 weeks, how many days do you have? 364.
Right.
Where does the 365th day come in?
Fuzzy.
Now, in this culture, they tell you there are 7 days to a week,
That's right.
52 weeks
Right.
to a year.
That's right.
So how can you have 365 days?
That's true. It's called fuzzy math.
Huh? Again, you have 4 seasons,
Yeah.
Right.
91 days to each season.
Right.
That comes out to 364. So where does the 365th come in at? See what I'm saying? So we're dealing with something here that's out of order.
Right.
Because there is an adjustment made in the Father's calendar as we go along.
Okay.
Because the way that it's reckoned, we know that certain years have 13 months. But the only way you can determine that
That's true.
is to be following this calendar, the Father's calendar, daily.
That's right.
Because if you don't,
Tell them, Elder.
people in the past, we have did it. In the past, we've celebrated the feast days on the wrong day. Why? Because we didn't understand the Father's calendar the way that we should have understood it. And he's been so merciful to us to show us the error of our ways.
That's right.
And to put us back on track.
But see,
That's why.
that's why he said right here, it's for seasons, for days, and years.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay?
Exactly.
And that's to show you what time it is to keep the feast days.
That's right.
That's why a lot of us don't understand how important these feast days really are.
No, they don't.
That's
They
right.
don't understand.
They
But,
don't.
but it's only if you follow what's written.
That's it.
That's it. That's
right.
the key.
And that's the key.
That's right. That's the key.
To rely on what's written,
That's right.
but not what's written in English,
That's right.
because you never would figure it out.
Absolutely not.
That's right.
They don't understand that.
No.
But that's because they're not with us. They're not around us. They don't.
Right.
They don't. People don't. You're not studying with us. You're not with us when we're doing this. When we're going over this. When we're doing this. When we're reading things. When we're going over things. When we're expressing things. You're not there.